In this lesson, we'll learn about creating and opening documents inside Illustrator. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we walked through the welcome screen, and remember it's the first screen we see when we launch Illustrator, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new document at this point. Now remember we've got the create new half here, and we've got some different document profiles. I'm going to go ahead and click on the print document profile here, and we're going to get the new document dialog. Now there's a lot of different options here, but we're going to walk through each one of these so you understand what these do. Now obviously the first one is the name, and this is going to be the title of our document. So let's just call this one new document for right now. And if we move down this screen, you'll see that the next option is for the document profile. And right now it's set to print because I clicked print in our welcome screen. Now we can change that here by dropping that down and choosing another one. Now remember, the desired output of our file is going to affect which document profile we choose. Now, based on the document profile we choose, the options later down in the screen may adjust accordingly. So let's go ahead and leave it on print for right now and continue to work our way down. We've got a number of artboards option here, and it's set to 1. Now, we've got a whole lesson planned out for you coming up here on artboards, so we're not going to dive into artboards too much right now, so let's go ahead and skip over that option. The next option is for size. Now, because we selected print as our document profile, the default's going to be letter. Now, if we drop this down, we're going to see several basic default sizes for paper here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on letter for right now, depending on what size you're intending to print on, but notice the next fields are for width and height. Now those are set to points right now because the unit of measure for our document is set to points right here. Now we can drop that down and set that to any unit of measure that we really feel like here. Say we want inches and it'll make that conversion for us. Let's go ahead and switch that back to points here, and let me just show you a cool little thing with the height and width field here. So let's say we're on points and we know we want a 6" by 6" document, so we can just enter in 6" here and then hit tab and hit 6" here, and Illustrator is going to make that conversion for us. Illustrator is going to do the math and figure out how many points a 6" by 6" document is. So let me just go ahead and switch back over to letter as my default size. And moving down here, we've got the orientation. We've got either a portrait style or a landscape style orientation. We can choose either one of those. Right now we're on portrait style, and that's going to be fine. Moving on down this dialog, we have the bleed area. Now, the bleed on your document is going to be an area that's trimmed off, or intended to be trimmed off when it goes to press. So the bleed, what that does is it allows you to print color all the way to the edge of a piece of paper and not worry about registering that with the paper. So we're going to print a little beyond the edge and trim that off, and that's the bleed area. Now let's go ahead and just set the bleed for this. We've got a top, bottom, left, and right, and notice we have a little chain link button over here. This is going to link all 4 of these sides together. So if we make a change to one side with these little arrows, let's just bump that up 1 point. You can see here that that change is reflected on the 3 other sides here. So I tell you what, let's just go ahead and change this to about an 1/8 of an inch bleed, which is going to be 9 points. I'll just enter 9 here and hit tab, and you'll see that reflected all the way over. Now, we've got an area down below that says Advanced. Now, we don't see anything there, but if we click this little double arrow right here, we'll be able to expand this dialog down and look at some more advanced options for our documents. So the first option here you see is color mode, and by default we're set to CMYK. Now that's great if you're going to be sending your file off to a printing press, but if you're designing for the web or maybe a digital device, then maybe you want to drop this down and switch your color mode to RGB. So that's where we can change those 2 options there. Now the next option is for raster effects. Now remember, Illustrator is a vector-based drawing program, but it does have the ability to apply pixel-based effects or raster effects to your vector objects. So Illustrator needs to know what quality we want these effects to be applied. So by default it's set to high at 300 ppi. Now again, depending on the desired output for your file, maybe you want to drop that down to medium or even screen. So moving on down here, our next option is for preview mode. Now notice by default we have an entry for default right here. That means that our preview mode is going to be by default set to view vector graphics. Now if we drop this down, we've got another couple of options here. We have a pixel option and an overprint option. Now the pixel option is going to preview what your vector-based artwork looks like in pixels. Now the overprint option is related to sending items to print. Overprint's going to provide basically an ink preview of how things are going to look when they go to press, things like blending and transparency and overprinting. Now, we've got here another option that says align new objects to pixel grid. This is a new option with CS5, and we can actually align our vector objects to a pixel grid, which is really going to be helpful if you're designing for the web or for devices, things like that. So we have another button over here for templates. Now, this is going to be sort of similar to the templates button over here in our welcome screen. If we click on that, it's going to bring us again to this dialog that allows us to browse to a template. Now, again, we're going to talk about templates in an upcoming lesson. Let's go ahead and click OK on this dialog for right now, accepting those document settings, and you can see here we've got our new document. This little red line here is going to represent the bleed that we specified. So we've created our first new document right from the welcome screen. Now, let's say that you have gone ahead and hidden your welcome screen, or maybe you're already inside a document and you want to create another new document. Now, keyboard shortcuts are really crucial within Illustrator, and a really helpful keyboard shortcut for creating a new document is going to be Control-N. Now, if you want to just open that through the drop-down menus here, you can choose File and New, but the keyboard shortcut is much faster. So let's just hit Control-N, and you can see here that we're going to get this same new document dialog that we just walked through. Let's go ahead and choose a different document profile here. Let's go ahead and just drop this down, and let's choose one for web. Now, notice here that the size options are going to change. We no longer have paper sizes, we have resolutions here. So let's going to go ahead and select this 1024 by 768 resolution, and notice our color mode has already switched over to RGB, and the raster effects are already set to 72 ppi or screen. So we also have a little check mark next to our align new objects to pixel grid, which is going to be great for designing for the web. So let's go ahead and hit OK on that. And you can see here we've got our second new document open. Now, notice how the new document was treated in relation to the first new document. We've got a new tab here. We're going to talk about working with multiple documents here in just a moment, but let's go ahead and first talk about opening a document. Maybe we've got a couple documents open. Now we want to open a document to work with that. So another keyboard shortcut that you should take note of for opening documents is going to be Control-O. Now, again, you can come up here to File and choose Open, but it's much faster to just use Control-O. And you can see here we get the Open dialog. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open one of the files we worked with a couple lessons back for that mini tutorial we did. So let's just grab this 5 Finish and open that one here. Great. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about working with these multiple documents. As you can see right now, we're working with them in a tabbed format. Maybe we want to reorder these tabs. It's as simple as grabbing a tab and sliding it to the left and dropping it in between maybe the other two tabs. Or maybe we want to move that all the way to the beginning and drop that right in here at the beginning of our tabs. Just like so. Now, I'm also going to pull this tab out and away, and you can see here that we've got sort of a transparent preview of our file. Maybe I want to move this over and dock this to another location in our Illustrator window. That's as easy as pulling it over here and mousing over maybe the left side until we get that blue line. Now, this is going to be a line that allows us to dock this document over to the left side of our window. And you can see here that it changes the way that we view multiple documents here. We've got one open document here on the left side, and then we've got our other two documents over here on the right side. So we're arranging our documents differently. Now we can actually drag, maybe we want to drag this one down and dock it to the bottom of our window here. And we've got it them arranged like so. Now, some easy ways to go through default arrangements for multiple documents within your Illustrator window are right up here. This little document drop down right here. Let's just drop that down. You can see here we get several different options for different basic arrangements of our files. So feel free to play with these, whatever works best for you. To be honest, my own workflow typically has me just working in a basic tabbed view with multiple documents. Now really quickly, let me come over here and just grab this document that we had created in previous lessons here. Now, there's a couple of really basic navigation, document navigation tools that I want to introduce you to. First is the hand tool right here. Now you can easily access that tool at any time just by hitting spacebar on your keyboard. And you can see that that hand comes up, and by clicking and dragging we can move our document around our window here. And now, very helpful keyboard shortcut. I use that all the time. So another one is this magnifying glass right here. Now, I hardly ever come over here and actually click on the magnifying glass. I always use keyboard shortcuts to access that tool. And those are really easy keyboard shortcuts to remember, but really important ones. So to access the zoom function of this magnifying glass, you can hold down Control and spacebar just like so. And with this magnifying glass selected, we can click and zoom in incrementally, or we can drag what's known as a marquee around an area we want to zoom in just by clicking and dragging. And then when we release, you can see here that we've zoomed into that area. So let me just go ahead and zoom out to the entire artboard here by hitting Control-0, just like so. And now we can actually zoom out by holding Control, Alt, and spacebar. And you can see here that our magnifying glass has a little minus sign in it, and again, we can just click to zoom out incrementally to whatever distance we need. Alright, so in this lesson we have discussed both creating and opening documents as well as managing multiple documents within Illustrator. Now, there's a whole lot here that we haven't even scratched the surface on yet, and in the next lesson we're going to pick up where we're leaving off here and really discuss the overall interface here within Illustrator.